What scene in a movie really pissed you off? Near the end of The Wedding Singer, when that douchebag Glenn thinks it's so nice of himself to agree to let Julia lean over him when they fly over the Vegas Strip. That little smirk he does makes me want to punch the TV. Julia Gulia. Why is that funny? Anytime a chessboard is set up incorrectly or an impossible move is played. This happens way too much. Seriously. Here are a ton of examples. Silence of the Lambs. Board is set up wrong. Amityville, when he says checkmate with his rook move, but it would have been impossible, based on the position. Aladdin uses a 7x7 board, and has no king for the white pieces. Shawshank Redemption. Board set up wrong. Independence Day. Julius says it is not mate. But it is. Oh never mind, this is a character refusing to admit the mate. Avengers. Board incorrect. Justice. Board incorrect. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Checkmate announced, but that is clearly not mate. This actually was a cool engine combination designed by M. Silman, but Ike did not translate on screen like how he had planned. Shaft. Board in the bar setup wrong. Legally Blonde 2. Board wrong. Da Vinci Code. Set up incorrectly. Rise of Planet of the Apes. Board is wrong. Paranoia. Checkmate announced but clearly not mate. Captain America. Civil War. The board in the tower is wrong. Even movies about chess or ones that specifically reference chess have inaccuracies. Searching for Bobby Fischer has tournament inaccuracies, no clock, no recorded moves, etc. Or the awful movie Checkmate has a board set up wrong despite the title referencing chess. WTF. Even the very cool movie Pawn Sacrifice is still riddled with minor chess mistakes, despite the fact that many real positions were used in several scenes. Boards set up wrong. Impossible positions. Incorrect mates. Seriously. Hollywood. Hire a freaking chess player to help set up boards. Hit me up. The Independence Day one is the only one here that you're not quite right about though. Julius said it wasn't mate, but that's because he was in denial that his son beat him. He looked at the board for a few more seconds and conceded the point. His character got that wrong, not the movie. Okay, nice. Fair enough. Not a specific movie, but I hate it when a character is trying to be sneaky, but they're also having a conversation with someone that the person they're hiding from could easily hear. Example, in Back to the Future 2nd, when Marty is hiding in the back of Biff's car whilst shouting at Doc Brown into a walkie-talkie, in defense of one of my favorite movies of all time. Convertibles allowed, and Biff had the radio cranked up over the wind. 2. In general though, I hear ya. Biff was cruising and jamming in his car. I forgive him for not thinking anyone was in his backseat. Papa loves Mambo. The end of I'm Legend missed the whole point of the book's ending. The book's ending is much better than what they filmed. It's Hollywood, so they had to make that version. Wasn't there 2 endings for the film? What was the ending for the book? In Office Space, when Milton didn't get his slice of cake, still bothers me 21 years later. Now Milton, don't be greedy. Let's pass it along and make sure everyone gets a piece. And then she doesn't pass the last piece. John Wick. When Viggo knocks John out but then ties him up instead of just killing him. I know that the bad guy not taking the opportunity to kill the hero is a common thing, but killing John is literally Viggo's only goal. John has nothing that Viggo needs. And Viggo himself delivered a huge speech about what an unstoppable badass John is. If anybody should have taken the opportunity to kill John while he was defenseless, it's Viggo. But he is Viggo. You are like the biting buzzing of flies to him. Scourge of Carpathia. Death is but a door. Time is but a window. I'll be back. The end of Grease, where the car flies into the air for no reason. Yeah, and why? A high schooler's 35 years old? 36-year-old here. Am I not supposed to be in 9th grade? Autobots teleporting from America to England via terrible transition in the last Transformer movie. The most bizarre part for me was that they had to go to Trinity Library, which is in Dublin, Ireland. And yet Hopkins just waltzes through a door in London and has there. It would be like a movie being set in Toronto and a character all of a sudden is in the Statue of Liberty. It would be like a movie being set in Toronto and a character all of a sudden is in the Statue of Liberty. The opposite happens all the time, since Toronto is typically used as a low-budget New York City in film. My favorite is in Umbrella Academy, when Massey Hall is used for one of Van Nuys' practices. One of the most historic concert venues in Canada, and people are going to notice that. It's not a scene. It's a trope. I have to tell you this thing, but I won't tell you, because telling you would speed up the plot and I need you to find out through other means that I know this thing, so that there can be a contrived and forced conflict 2/3 into the movie that we'll reconcile several minutes later trope. I ducking hate that. It's bad. Lazy duck in writing. No time to explain. Movie skips ahead several hours in which there absolutely would have been time to explain. Every scene where Percy's face appeared on my screen in the Green Mile. That indicates the actor did a good job. Except he's a creep in real life too, so not that much acting there. The end of Titanic, when Rose dies, she goes into the afterlife to be with some dude she had a fling with 80 years ago. What about her husband? People she spent a lifetime with? Maybe a child that died before her? I'm making some assumptions, but you get my point. 80 years ago, and for only 3 days no less. My mom and grandmother also always got pissed when Rose threw the necklace away, when she could have given it to her granddaughter, or started a charity/foundation in Jack's name. It belonged in a museum. Literally. Towards the end of Speed, when Sandra Bullock's character is told to stay put for a minute, I knew in my heart that, after being a total step to the plate badass for the entire movie, that they were going to have her do something stupid and banal. Sure enough, she steps out into the open, gets nabbed, and then gets put into a damsel in distress situation for Keanu to save. When I think of that movie, I'm always remembering that scene where the bus takes the tight turn and you hear Sandra say the same "here we go oh 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 oh" line twice. For me, it's the bus jumping the incomplete highway section, like it hits a ramp that wasn't there. Iron Man 3. Tony threatens a terrorist and then walks around his house in the only one of his 42 suits that doesn't have any weapons on it. If he'd been wearing literally any suit from Mark 1 to 41, those choppers wouldn't have been a problem. To add on, why doesn't his private residence have a state-of-the-art defense network? An argument can be made that it's just his own ignorance/arrogance. But even Tony should know he can't always be there for Pepper, and she needed some security when he's off doing his own thing and she's chilling at the crib. He does have a state-of-the-art defense system. It's called the House Party Protocol. I'm just not sure why the smartest guy on earth decided that, instead of having 42 Iron Man suits protecting him and Potts, he wanted to walk around in his house basically naked and no way to scan for threats. Any scene in Harry Potter that could be completely and easily solved with magic they've already demonstrated in the previous films. It's like they forget every spell they've ever learned except the one the story wants them to use. Honestly, as the movies progress, all spells just blast. There's no reason for any specific spells anymore, because no matter what spells the characters are shouting, they all just blast the other person. Like, Stupefy is a stunning spell, and in the late movies it literally just blasts people backwards into walls and shit. Or in Crimes of Grindelwald, where the aura kills that rally attendee. There are so many stunning or disarming spells, and I doubt that the Ministry is letting their law enforcement go around using spells that are literally known as unforgivable. I blame David Yates for most of those, since that issue only crops up once he started directing the franchise. Death Eaters flying for spooky effect always bothered me. Book 7 made a big deal of how Voldemort was flying on his own. I know this is silly, but the scene or scenes in Face Off where they do the face stroking thing, I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it just makes me cringe. I hated that part. It's weird and awkward. And don't rub your gross hand on someone's face. I love it so much, and have been doing it ironically so much that now I'm sure it's even ironic anymore. Face Off might be the best worst movie ever. In one of the G.I. Joe films there is an explosion underwater and the ice at the top falls down and starts landing on the underwater base. Ice floats. How dare you let facts into a G.I. Joe movie? A CGI Joe movie. First scene in the Artemis Fowl movie shows the main character, who is notoriously unathletic and uncoordinated in the books, riding some waves on a surfboard. My sister made it 10 minutes into that film. Texts me to say it's shite and not to bother, then reread the books to purge it from her memory. The only good thing about that movie was that it got me reread all the books. Any scene in the Terminator films where the Terminator shoots a gun and misses. You're telling me Skynet can build intelligent machines and they figured out time travel, yet they can't be programmed to aim straight. For me it was when a Terminator gets their hands on someone and then throws them. They have a hydraulic press grip. They could literally crush someone's skull with one hand while barely paying attention. If they get their hands on you and they want you dead, you're dead. Because that's what they are. T1 and T2 didn't have this problem and were so much more intense for it. Not really pissed off, but an entire theater of slightly pissed off people. I was in college and a bunch of us went to see the X-Files movie in the theater. This was in Texas. There's a scene when Mulder is in Dallas and he asks a bunch of kids at a playground where the alien or whatever went, and they all point west towards some huge Rockies type mountains. The whole theater of Texans spit out their popcorn and WTFD at the same time. I saw The Shallows in theaters in East Texas, and there's a scene where the main character steps out onto a gorgeous white sanded beach with clear, emerald blue-green water. It looks like Tahiti or something, and then it pops up and says Galveston. TX, and at that point everyone in the theater started laughing hysterically. Galveston beaches do not look like that. What, you've never seen perfect breaking tubes in the crystal blue waters of Galveston? Clearly you have never been there, because that's always been my experience when standing on the isolated forested beaches of Galveston. Superman beating the hell out of Steppenwolf. All the other characters are useless from that point onwards. Honestly, the biggest reason I don't like Justice League. Might as well just called it Superman Returns. In the recent movie Bloodshot, there's an early action scene in which a truck full of flour is crashed in a tunnel, and then there's a shootout/fight scene amidst a literal fog of flour in the air, mostly illuminated by people throwing road flares around for light. It looks great, but I couldn't enjoy it, because all I could think about is how airborne flour burns, and when mixed with air at the right density, it explodes. It just takes an ignition source, like any of a dozen flares, or maybe any of several dozen guns. Not to mention burning vehicles. Everyone should been blown up and burned and starved of oxygen. The most frustrating part about that is that this is something Hollywood would know. They make explosions in movies look more impressive by adding aerosolized powder like flour to make the fireball. Whenever a character runs from danger and falls, like it is first time in their life they've ran. Whenever a character has a heated argument with their girlfriend/boyfriend and all that could be avoided if either of them let other explain the situation or misunderstandment. I just walked in on her while she was changing, or she's just my sister, could resolve half of the conflicts in every romantic drama movie I can explain. Oh, okay, let's talk. The end. When P.O.S.A.D says the future of noodles is dice cut vegetables. WTF goose. That's a terrible idea. You're gonna go out of business. This actually made me laugh. Thanks. Harry Potter breaking the Elder Wand and tossing away the pieces, implying that he's going to keep using Draco Malfoy's old wand indefinitely. Bitch no. He used the Elder Wand to mend his trusty Phoenix Feather Wand, intended to have the wand reburied with Dumbledore, and aimed to end the wand's chain of power upon his own death. And when Voldemort dissolves, the guy hits the ground like an ordinary man. That's the whole point. Despite all his magic and his Horcruxes, he's just human like everyone else and dies. Yeah, I hated that. And the whole drawn out duel between the two. Even if you forget about Horcruxes and Hallows, Voldemort is a much more powerful wizard than Harry and would straight up murder him in a duel. The only reason Harry knew he could face him in the book is because he was betting on his being right about the Elder Wand. And don't get me started on Harry grabbing Voldemort and jumping out of that tower. That was just bizarre. The scene in the ducking 50 Shades of Grey movie where he goes to Home Depot and buys a bunch of bondage gear and includes zip ties among that list. So if you're not into BDSM, let me just tell you something. You should never ever use zip ties for sexual bondage. They cannot be loosened. They only get tighter the more you struggle. And they are thick and sharp enough to break the skin. Using zip ties is extremely dangerous and can cause serious injury or death. They have to be cut off, which can cause even more damage. And this movie acts like it's totally okay to tell millions of non-BDSM wine moms and teenage girls that this is okay. I could literally write a ducking book on all the horrible things 50 Shades gets wrong about BDSM. But that one boils my ducking blood. There's a reason the entire BDSM community came out and condemned the movies. There was also the part where he apparently ignores her when she uses her safe word, which meant that after that point it wasn't consensual bondage. It was just plain rape. The whole thing was ducked up from what I've read about it. It was basically a rich, abusive arsehole who got obsessed with a clueless hot virgin and then brainwashed and abused her until she got Stockholm's and fell in love with him. Dan Alson of Folding Ideas has produced an excellent 3-part series delving specifically into the film adaptations, their production, and the problems of each one. He describes Christian Grey as follows. To the best of my memory, he just wants a caring mother figure who will cook his meals and satisfy his needs, but also is okay if he hits her really hard with a belt or cane sometimes. That's not so much damage as it is a profile of a serial killer. Hey, thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.